Boylan smiled when she noticed Vanis looking at her. I'm relieved you're okay, she said softly. I wasn't sure if you would survive, but I'm happy you did. Vanis groaned as he tried to sit up. What happened? Where? Where are the others? His voice wavered, panic raising as his hands instantly reached for his sword. He glanced around frantically, but there was no sign of Xanatus. Where is he? Vanis shouted, his voice trembling. Where's Xanatus? Boylan sighed. He left. At first, I thought he would stay, just like you did, but no, he's gone. Why are you here then? Why didn't you go with your people? Vanis asked, his eyes narrowing. You took care of me, she replied firmly. I couldn't just leave. As for my people and Xanatus, he wants to get away from you. That's why they're not here anymore. So, what now? What do we do? Boylan asked, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Vanis shook his head, muttering under his breath, I don't know. As he looked at her, Vanis noticed burns and cuts along Boylan's arm. She followed his gaze and quickly pulled her sleeves down, trying to hide the wounds. Vanis narrowed his eyes, about to ask what happened, but he chose to stay silent, lost in thought. He slowly rose and began walking ahead without a plan, hoping fate or the gods would guide him. There had to be a reason he was here. Behind him, Boylan trailed quickly, her movements slow and deliberate. Vanis glanced over his shoulder, his mouth slightly open in confusion and suspicion. Without a word, he turned back, gripping the hilt of his sword tightly, and continued walking through the dense forest. Boylan followed, still stroking her wounded arms, keeping her distance. As they ventured deeper into the dark woods, Vanis stopped to make camp. His hand remained on his sword as he glanced at Boylan. I'm going to find food. Stay here. Boylan stood up and said, I'll come with you. Vanis turned sharply, his glare cold. Stay here. I need to do this alone, he said bitterly before heading into the forest, sword in hand. As Vanis walked further into the shadows, the winds whistled through the trees, and the leaves rustled softly. For a few moments there was only silence. Then a loud screech pierced the air. Vanis sprung towards the sound, his heart racing, and he saw a massive creature charging at him. It resembled a wolf, but its fur was fury red like fox, and it stood 4 times his size, with sharp teeth and claws gleaming in the dim light. Vanis pivoted just in time to avoid the beast's attack, and swung his sword, managing to land a quick strike. The creature howled in pain before disappearing back into the thick trees. Suddenly, it ambushed him from behind, sinking its teeth into Valis' shoulder. He screamed in agony, fumbling for his dagger. With a swift motion, he stabbed the beast, but it held on, dragging him through the dirt as its grip tightened. Vanis stabbed the creature, but to his dismay, his sword slipped from his grasp as he was dragged deeper into the forest. Pain wrecked his body as he screamed in agony before everything went black. The wolf faded into silence, though muffled sound echoed faintly around him. The air was cold, still, and eerily quiet. When Vanis woke, he found himself in a cave, the dim light barely illuminating his surroundings. The hybrid wolf was nowhere in sight. He could see a small bed, a table, and some parchment strewed across it. The pain in his shoulder lingered, though it hadn't worsened. Stumbling to his feet, he made his way to the table, hoping to find something useful. His eyes fell on a piece of parchment, and the recognition hit him. The handwriting was familiar. It was Val's. The game brought you here for a reason, and you may face something similar to what I experienced, a near-death encounter. When that happens, take a moment to pause and think. Time won't stop, but it will slow down. You can't stay in that moment forever. If you're being attacked, use that time wisely. Prepare. I've been in near-death situations countless times. There's always a pattern. Stop, prepare, and don't linger too long. You only have a few minutes before everything resumes at full speed. Check what you have. Anything can help you fight back. If you're prepared, you can still escape this. Vanis stared at the note, his heart racing. He began scanning his surroundings for anything useful, but the cave was as barren as before, a desk, a bed, and an eerie silence pressing down on him. Frustration gaunt at him as he glanced down at the Gamelit, pulling up the menu. He found the alchemy tab, revealing a potion recipe. The ingredients were listed, but one crucial element was missing: a tear. A tear, Vanis muttered under his breath. You've got to be kidding me. He desperately tried to force himself to cry, his eyes dry from panic and exhaustion. His mind raced, thinking about his family, the events happening in both worlds, and the weight of it all pressing on his chest. But no tears came, only a growing sense of dread. Then he noticed the pain. His shoulder throbbed, the sensation sharp and burning. It was a warning sign. He didn't have much time left. He needed to escape soon, or it would be too late. Just when he thought it was hopeless, a single tear welled up and slid down his cheek. Quickly, Vanis caught it in a small vial and added to the potion. As the liquid swelled, it began to glow faintly. He poured the contents into the bottle, sealing it with trembling hands. He was ready. Taking a deep breath, Vanis stepped out of the cave. Darkness enveloped him, the familiar chills of the forest pressing in on all sides. His shoulder ached as he reached for his sword, wincing in pain. He knew the creature was still out there, lurking. He strained his ears, listening for any sound. Even a low howl echoed behind him, followed by a rumble of shifting rocks. His heart raced. Slowly he turned, and through the dim light he saw two glowing eyes staring back at him from the shadows. Confused and aching, Vanis clutched his side, his body trembling. He glanced around, catching a glimpse of his reflection in a nearby puddle. But as he looked, his reflection seemed to vanish into darkness. The howls of the forest echoed in the distance, followed by the cawing of crows. The air seemed thick with tension, yet nothing attacked. Determined, Vanis continued walking, staying alert for the wolf-like creature that had ambushed him. There was no sign of the previous attacks, and he glanced down at the potion he carried. Could it have helped him survive? He wasn't sure, but a renewed sense of resolve filled him. He was ready to face whatever came next. Suddenly the wolf that had attacked him earlier lunged from the shadows, biting into his wounded shoulder once again. Vanis reacted swiftly, smashing the potion bottle over his head. The creature howled in pain and recoiled, collapsing to the ground in fear. Gasping for breath, Vanis staggered to his feet. Clutching his injured shoulder, the beast lay still on the ground, but now it appeared larger and more menacing than before. Its sharp teeth glistened, and its scarred face revealed bones beneath the fur. Vanis' Gamelit glowed faintly as he opened the menu, where a prompt appeared. Ingredients collected. Zonze, an essence of the creature that could be used for a potion. With a grunt, Vanis tore out some of the wolf's hair and carefully stored it in a container. His stomach growled in hunger as he grabbed the carcass of the fallen beast, dragging it back towards where Violin waited. When he arrived, Violin was standing there, a smoke playing on her lips. She glanced at his wounds and chuckled. "You must have had a tough time," she teased, her eyes gleaming. Vanis scowled, throwing the carcass in front of her. "What was that?" "It looked like a wolf, but it's much bigger." Violin's smirk widened. "You're right, it's just a baby. The parents are far bigger." Valis' mouth fell open in disbelief. He muttered under his breath, "A baby?"